Hello, radio amateurs. This is Victor Alpha 2 Alpha Kilo Golf Tango Alpha 1 Uniform Hotel Çağlar Akıngör. I'd like to share information about this Heathkit Hotel Whiskey 2036 transceiver, which I worked on extensively last year and completed the restoration. Actually, I have a three-part article on my blog and website about this restoration work. However, recently, while talking to a fellow ham, he mentioned that reading through my blog was too lengthy, and suggested that suggested to create videos for YouTube so it will be easier to watch for those who don't like to read. So I agreed, and here I am with this video. In a moment, I'll briefly introduce Heathkit, talk about this radio and how it was introduced to the market. Then I will explain what issues the radio had when I first got it, what kind of work did I do to fix those problems, and most importantly, I'll share what this restoration taught me about VHF technique and what I gained as an amateur radio operator from all this. And after discussing those points, I'll wrap up the video. And remember, this is the first of a series of four videos. I hope you will enjoy watching. Now, let's first take a look at the transceiver itself and examine its features briefly. Yeah, friends, the radio we'll be discussing is the one right here. As you can see, it has a minimalistic design. Now, you may know a little about Heathkit. The company was active from late 1940s, almost to the end of 1980s. They produced not only communication electronics, but also all sorts of consumer electronics, from broadcast receivers to TV sets, from music systems, hi-fi systems, turntables, etc., to measurement devices, lab instruments, and many of those products were available as kits. You could order through mail order catalogs. And as for this radio, it was introduced in late 1970s, and like most Heathkit products, it was designed for knowledgeable, hobbyists who will be able to assemble it just using just with a, just your basic multimeter, nothing else. You don't need an oscilloscope or something fancier to assemble it and to align it. That was the philosophy of Heathkit. So this transceiver featured phase locked loop technology, sorry, PLL, which was quite advanced for its time, and I believe even today it's a nice example for those who want to understand PLL circuits. And this wasn't Heathkit's first VHF transceiver. In the late 1970s, as crystals and integrated circuits became more affordable, and the popularity of CB radios and ham radio grew, uh, VHF devices highly sought after. And as you can see, they started to shrink in size, they became more mobile. And Heathkit capitalized on these trends and released multiple products in this category. So the Hotel Whiskey 2036 wasn't the first in its series. Um, it is actually the third one. The first one was Hotel Whiskey 202, a simpler crystal controlled model. And then came the 2026, which looked almost identical to this one, but the 26 had a design flaw in its synthesizer, and it was producing, undesired emissions, spurious emissions, and it became the only Heathkit product ever recalled in the company's 50-year history. And learning from the 2026 issues, Heathkit refined the design and introduced the 2036 you see here. And if I'm not mistaken, around 1980, they also released the VF 7401, which had digital display, scanning features, and memory storage capabilities. After this, they stopped producing these transceivers altogether. As you see, they all share the same boxy design and chassis format. And to add, also, this is a Hotel Whiskey 2036A. It is marked as 2036 only, but the 2036A was launched very shortly after the 2036. The main difference is the 2036 covers only 2 megahertz in the 2 meters band, while the 36A was able to cover all 4 megahertz of the 2 meters band used in North America. So how does it happen? You see, this unit is labeled as 2036, but it was later modified with a kit, again produced by Heathkit, which allowed you to change the varicap diode, a couple of coils, etc., inside the voltage control oscillator to make it a 2036A. So this is a modified unit, and the modification allowed it to cover a wider frequency range. Okay, so now let's power it on, and let's light up the display and take a closer look at its operation. And I'll also connect the antenna, so we'll see how the radio functions in real life. So I turn it on with the volume knob. So as you can see, the frequency is entered through those BCD mechanical switches, and the beginning is always 140, so it's 147270 at the end, because the toggle switch allows you to make 0 or 5. Now it's 275, and it became 270 again. Now, as you can see, we are at 147.270 megahertz, and this is the squelch. You have three adjustable tones there. They have to be preset from within the chassis before, and you have the standard shifts minus or plus 600 kilohertz for repeaters. You also have a crystal socket inside in case you want to put a different shift in a different band plan or so. That's the auxiliary position, and you have the simplex. Now let's try the nearest repeater we have. Okay. Um, okay. So I put it on 600. Yeah, that's the return from the relay Romeo L Echo Delta. I'm not sure how the situation is in your region, but here, even if you listen for 24 hours, you'll barely hear people talking. The bands are almost empty, unfortunately. What else to tell you about the front panel? Yeah, you see the LED there. This lights up if the synthesizer fails to lock. So that means the frequency cannot be maintained. It's not stable, and under normal operation, this LED should remain always off. Uh, so it's not a good thing when it lights up. That means you have a problem with the VCO or the synthesizer, or maybe some voltage problem, as I will tell you about in the second and third video. Now let's take a look at the back of the device. Okay, there isn't much here. This is a very minimalistic, design, as I said. So you have the antenna connector and an external speaker connector, and they are both RCA jacks. Okay, which I don't like at all. And you have a direct wired input for DC, and that switch allows you to switch between external and internal loudspeakers. And as you see, the DC cable goes directly to the circuit board. There's also this bracket that is designed to mount the unit in a car's dashboard. Okay, and one last thing is this optional DTMF microphone. Unfortunately, there was an issue with the tone generation circuit inside this microphone, so I had to disable it. Uh, but it still works, and because the flexible was died, basically the flexible keypad was broken. So in general, that's our rig. And despite its simple design, the radio still performs impressively. Okay, it lacks memory storage and that kind of, rings, bells, etc., whistles, whatever you call it. You have to manually set the frequency, but for my needs, it just works fine. I just listen to one repeater and say hello to people. That's all. So it's it's for my own use. It has everything I want. Okay, I don't communicate much on VHF or UHF. I don't listen to five different frequencies in the same time. Neither the police nor the firefighters, etc. I have, no, I'm now not curious. I'm not curious about those things. Maybe sometimes I just join a net, here locally, and that's when I say hello. I just listen to what people talk and turn it off. So it's perfectly useful. And let's take a look at the bottom. See this label. Believe it or not, this unit was originally assembled on April 17, 1977. So the builder signed and dated the label, and that label actually says that the person who assembled it followed up the instructions, and the unit should normally be compliant with the FCC standards. Okay, so you were actually officially giving a statement that this unit was compliant for the FCC standards, and there's also a serial number or not. So now, just to repeat it again, to emphasize it again, almost 50 years after its assembly, this radio still works just as well as the day it was built, and it's a nice one.